Sheila Magalhaes grew up in East Long. I probably don't even have to do the introduction because everybody here knows her. Staying to raise her own family here and opening Heartsong Yoga in 1993 when she was 10 years old? Mm-hmm. Okay. This year she is proud to be celebrating her 25th year in business, offering classes, workshops, and trainings for health and wellness through yoga and mindful practices. My wife is an attendee for the programs. And your older sister's the one that teaches that class, right?
My mom.
That's what I said. Yeah, right. Okay. A graduate of Westfield State University, her interest in business and marketing matched up with her passion for yoga and holistic healing. And while back in the day, as she says, not too many people knew much about yoga, today's latest Yoga in America study shows that over 80 million people in the United States are interested in starting a practice this year. Heartsong continues to thrive and grow, offering classes for children, young adults like all of us, and grown-ups of all ages, from prenatal yoga to chair yoga, and there is something for everybody. If we could please give a warm Rotary welcome to Sheila Magalhaes.
It's really, really nice to be back. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much. And Joanne for reaching out. It's my biggest pleasure to introduce people to the practice of yoga, to answer questions, to demystify it. I can't believe that we've been in business in town for 25 years. I don't know where the time went. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to just continue doing this work. I'm supported with my mom, who, do you remember back in the day when we first began? That was a big step for us when we're in the 264 North Main Street Condo East building, which is right next to the Reminder publication. And we rented there for a couple of years, and then the owner said, "We want you to buy it." And we said, "What? What?" Really a wonderful opportunity for us, and I actually live right around the corner from there, so I've been able to walk to work really often and enjoy being close to the studio and everything that we do. My husband is also, he's the behind-the-scenes man, and his name is Tony, where I met him at Mr. B's 35 years ago when Danny was my boss. And it's my two children who are now grown up and living in the Boston area. It's good work, and I'm really proud of it. Mindful living is what we talk about. We talk about yoga, mindfulness, and mindful living. And I like to kind of define that as paying attention on purpose without judgment and with acceptance. So every once in a while, you catch yourself sort of wishing that something was different, or considering how something was in the past and kind of ruminating on that, or thinking about what's coming next and starting to get worried or anxious about something that's in the future, something that is just all in our mind. And then all of a sudden we remember to be here now, to be here where everything is happening and unfolding as we speak. And then you might suddenly notice that it's a gorgeous day. Or you might all of a sudden hear the birds singing and think, spring is coming. When we rush, when we hurry, we don't pay attention, we can sometimes miss the beauty and the joy that's available to us in the here and now. They say that yoga is nearly 5,000 years old, and it's been passed down through the centuries and through the generations, mostly in an oral tradition. Today, yoga has become really mainstream, and people know about it, they're curious about it. And I'll talk a little bit about the intersection of science and yoga, which makes me really excited. Because 25 years ago, when I first started, I had to do a lot of demystifying what it is and what it's not. Yoga is not a religion. It's really a science, a lifestyle, an art. It's a way of being in the world with one another. The word yoga means union, to join or to yoke together. The language is Sanskrit. That goes back to the Indian roots, the Indian contemplative practices where yoga comes from. To join or to bring together or to look for balance. About 200 BC, there was a scholar, his name was Patanjali. he pulled together all the information that had been passed down through the centuries before him in that oral tradition. And he created a book called Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And sutra is a thread, short little aphorisms, and kind of a guidebook to what he would call enlightenment. And when I think about enlightenment, or maybe you could consider it too, just sort of lightening up, brightening up, just sort of coming up out of heaviness. When we're stressed and anxious and worried, it feels like there's a lot of heaviness, feels like the world is on our shoulders. But when you have that sense of opening and lifting, it feels brighter, it feels lighter, it feels easier. Patanjali's methodology, he said, if you practice this, that you will find clarity and stillness and appreciation, and that you will have a more authentic life. And these tools and techniques that he talked about in 200 BC are very, very applicable today in our 21st century lives, because we often are anxious and stressed and worried. And yoga helps us to reduce stress. Every major research study shows that yoga reduces stress and anxiety, and that it's very, very helpful for us in all areas of our lives. When you think about yoga, how many of you guys have been involved in it? I know that a few of you have. Yeah, good. Many, many different styles of yoga, many different approaches and ways to practice. I like to talk about ways that are accessible to everybody. And that might be just paying attention to our breathing, paying attention to our posture, and paying attention to where the mind is. What Patanjali said was that yoga could slow down the thought waves of the mind. And what I love today is that scientists are imaging and scanning brains, and they show the thought waves. They show anxiety that looks like this. They show relaxation that looks like this. So those thought waves are real. They say that yoga can supercharge the brain. There's this thing called neuroplasticity, that our brains can rewire and adapt. And the scientists are showing that. Increases in gray matter. They're helping us to prove that we can shift and change how we think, how we behave by our practices. Meditation is a very strong part of yoga. And Patanjali's what he called his 8-limbed path. He maps out these steps that starts with the way that you care for one another. So practicing kindness, loving kindness, and nonviolence. The way that you take care of yourself, so that you are paying attention to how you live your life. That you're studying, that you're learning, that you're growing, that you have some devotion, that there's something that you respect that's outside of yourself. And that's that part of connection and union, that you feel connected to one another and you feel connected to the world around you. And then he asks us to pay attention to how we hold our bodies and how we take care of our physical selves. And part of it has to do with breathing, and we'll do a little breathing exercise as well. Smooth, even, consistent, deep breathing is the first thing that you can do to help reduce stress. And they say that if you just simply lengthen the breath, that helps to bring on the relaxation response, which is the opposite of fight, flight, right? Or freeze, which is really important to know how to navigate stress and anxiety, that there's something you can do. Take a deep breath. It sits in our back pocket. We have it. He then talks about turning attention inward so that we learn to be a little more contemplative. We learn to be a little more quiet, especially in our culture. This day and age, everybody's so plugged in, constantly turned on. We're plugged into our computers. We've got our phones in our hands. The kids all have earbuds. You're driving down the street, turn and look, and someone's next to you, and they're definitely on the phone. Everybody's always on, right? And it's really hard to unplug. In fact, it's almost impossible to unplug these days. And even if you go on vacation, what do? You want to make sure you get a hotel room that has Wi-Fi, because you have to be plugged in, right? Freak out if we're not connected. So if you go to a yoga class, and even if it's once a week for 60 minutes, and you've turned off your phone and set it aside, and you come into a place that's quiet, that's free from distraction, and you begin to learn how to settle down those thought waves, and return to the present moment. Your brain will thank you for it. Your body will thank you for it. Clinical peer-reviewed scientific studies show that yoga and meditation are helping us with depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, heart, pain reduction, blood pressure. And what I like to say is that for chronic disease, mindfulness and meditation, they're not going to cure you, but they can help you to navigate it. They can help you to feel better. And if you're a caregiver caring for someone who's ill and you have these practices, really important skills and really wonderful to develop patience and acceptance through those mindfulness practices. Studies show that regular yoga practice can slow aging, which I like a lot. It fends off...
Trying to redeem yourself now.
I am. It fends off weight gain, right? It curbs neck pain, back pain. It can help control diabetes. It can help heal your heart. And I like to say that it can just help you to have a better day, when you find time to do this. Your mindfulness practices, they don't have to be very formal. You don't have to sit. You don't have to find that quiet time. You don't have to carve out a lot of time. You can also be mindful about chopping vegetables. You can be mindful about making beds. You can be mindful about preparing an excellent meal, sitting down to enjoy that meal, right? You can be mindful taking a walk. So it doesn't have to be a very formal practice. We can start to think about it by maybe changing the way that you're sitting. If you're crossed legs, uncross them. Put your feet on the floor. If you're leaning back in your chair, sit up a little bit. Maybe your hands can rest on your lap. And then shrug your shoulders back. And imagine that there's a cord from the crown of your head lifting up towards the sky, so that you're improving your posture. It helps you to feel like you're breathing better. You're not crunched and scrunched in the lungs or curved in your belly, right? You look more elegant, and it just feels better to sit up tall, right? And you get a couple inches taller too, which is nice. If you would like, you can also let your eyes close, because I think it's good to have an experience of. If you let your eyes close, or if that feels kind of weird, you can just sort of look down past the tip of your nose. So sitting up tall, closing your eyes, feeling the earth underneath your feet, right? Feeling the space around you. And then if you have the ability to do this, can you breathe in and out quietly through your nose? So that you close your mouth, relax your jaw, smooth out across your brow, and just breathe in and out through the nose. Can you take the breath deeper than your collarbones and drop it into the furthest regions of the lungs? And if you do, you might put a soft smile on your face as you appreciate the fullness of the breath. You might even hear yourself breathe, which is kind of weird because we don't usually pay attention to it. You don't really notice it, but you're breathing all the time. There's a wonderful mindfulness teacher. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese meditation teacher, poet, an activist, an author. And he gives us these short little sentences to help us to stay present. So I'm going to share those with you as you sit with your eyes closed. He says, breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. As the in-breath grows deep, the out-breath grows slow. Breathing in makes me calm. Breathing out gives me ease. With the in-breath, I smile. And with the out-breath, I release all tension. Breathing in, I know that I'm alive. Breathing out, in this present moment. Breathing in, there is only this present moment. Breathing out, It's a wonderful moment. Take a deep breath in, and then let it out softly. And then very slowly, let your eyes come open. And just notice how you feel. How's it feel to take a short break, a little breathing break? Pretty good? Did you want to take a nap? Sort of, yeah? One of the things that we do at the end of every yoga practice, it's called Shavasana, and it means the corpse pose. And we lie down and put a blanket up to your chin, put a little pillow under your head, put a little cushion underneath your knees, and just get quiet for almost 10 minutes. And I really think that that's one of the reasons people come back to yoga. It's because they get to take a nap. You don't get to do that, right? Yeah, and then we just curl up and roll over to the side and get back up, and it's real quiet. You just feel wonderful after doing that. When most people think about yoga in the mainstream, what does it look like? What do you think of?
All these crazy poses.
Crazy poses! Yes, right?
Affleck.
Twisting up, what, Affleck? Right, a little duck doing yoga, sure. Most of the time, this is kind of a problem that we have these days with yoga being mainstream, and you really honestly can't go through one of those checkout counters at the grocery store without seeing some magazine cover with someone in a yoga pose. But it's usually someone who's young, thin, white, usually a woman, and usually in an impossible posture. So you take a look at it and you say, the first thing is, that's not me. That's not who I am. I couldn't possibly do that. And that, of course, is just the way that everything happens in mainstream America, is we make it more glamorized, we make it more interesting. But the truth is, each and every one of you and anyone can practice yoga. We have the most amazing students who come in, some with very big challenges and difficulties physically, or whatever's happening to them in their lives emotionally. And people come to yoga because they find peace. And we always give variations and modifications and different ways that you can do this way, or you can do it this way, or I can give you a strap, or I can give you a block, and I can help make this practice accessible to you. And it's really important to know that yoga is for everybody. You don't have to be perfectly fit, perfectly strong, perfectly thin, at your perfect health in order to practice.
Hear that, Jim?
I'm not picking on anybody here. When you think about the reasons why people come to yoga, really the highest level that people will say is, well, for their physical health, but also for their emotional well-being and stress reduction. Because where does stress live in your body?
Every place.
Every place. And in specifically, lots of times,
In your back.
in your back,
Shoulders.
in your shoulders, right? In your neck. We'll say it. We'll be like, that is such a pain in the neck. Like, you say it, you know it. It's really what's held in the shoulders. Because when we get stressed and tight and tense, we clench our fists, we curl up our shoulders, we hunch down. What about what's being called today tech head? Everybody's folded forward, looking down at their computers, like this, right? This, shoulders back, crown of the head up, reduces and releases that forward fold, also with aging. Posture, right? Our postural challenges. So another place where stress often lives in the body is in our belly, right? Like, there's a lot of tension and stress-related difficulties and disorders in the gut. So if you're anxious, if you're worried, or if you have something going on in your belly and you end up at the doctor's, quite often they're going to tell you to what? Take a pill. I have a pill for that. Here's your anti-anxiety. Here's your anti-depression. Here, take this pill before you eat that spicy meal, and you'll be fine. But if your body's saying, look, I don't digest that very well, this isn't really good for me, I don't feel well when I eat this food or this much, but we're always trying to mask it or push it away or pretend that it doesn't exist. So yoga says what? Pay attention. Be here now. what makes me feel better if I choose a different diet? What makes me feel better if I get enough sleep? What makes me feel better if I try to reduce my stress, anxiety, and tension? And you know, the thing is, we can't change what's happening around us, right? This is a very big piece of a yoga philosophy. We can't change all of the outside influences, but we may be able to change the way that we respond to them. We may be able to pause. We may be able to stop, to breathe, to create some space. And that's one of the gifts that yoga offers us. So besides the poses, the strengthening, the body awareness, there's also the physical, emotional, and mental aspects of it as well, which makes it a holistic practice and something that people are very attracted to and are more curious about. So I was wondering if you had any questions for me. I feel like I've been talking a lot. So, yeah, Bill.
You had mentioned, sleep. And we always hear that you need 7-8 hours a night sleep. Two parts of that I'll ask about. Number one, I find that as I get older, I don't sleep very much.
Right, hear that a lot.
And is it really necessary, well, I guess, to get that 7 or 8 hours sleep? Or if we do 4 or 5 or 6 hours at night and then 2 or 3 hours on the couch before we go to bed, does that all add up?
Well, on the couch isn't the same as rest. On the couch is usually with a clicker, a snack, a drink, other things happening.
I mean, actual sleeping.
If you're sleeping on the couch, that's sleep. Sure, why not?
I do a lot of that.
Yeah. And if you rest,
Starting at 7 o'clock.
that's sleep. I mean, and that's one of the things. If you fall asleep on the couch, and then you go to bed, you've already had a couple of minutes or hours on the couch, so maybe you're not going to be able to translate that to being in your bed. But I think it's important to recognize if you're feeling sleep deprived, which many Americans are, that you do need to stop, that you need to rest. Yeah. And it's super important for, for your daily activities if you're feeling rested. Yeah.
Just curious, Sheila, have you ever had experience with people who have special needs
Yeah.
and yoga?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have.
It's beautiful.
So it's something that can be done.
It can, of course, special needs, children, teenagers, adults, absolutely. We have these beautiful classes called Brain Break Yoga for kids, especially good for those who are on the autism spectrum, for ADHD and ADD, and anyone with challenges. Working one-on-one is a beautiful way to get started so that people feel confident and ready to step into a group class. And then when you're in a group class, everyone's equal. Everyone is there. And the intention is we say, don't look around. Don't be comparing yourself to one another. Don't judge. Like, celebrate who you are. And I think for folks who don't feel quite confident or comfortable in their own skin, that when they hear those messages like, you're perfect just the way you are, isn't that an incredible thing to hear? Especially if you don't really always hear that or know that. So you get to change how you think about yourself and feel more confident and comfortable being out in the world, definitely. And you can also research and Google. This is the thing 25 years ago. There was no research when I started. There was no internet. And so today you can Google any yoga and any condition, and you're going to get a huge list of wonderful practices that you can do. You might do partner work, you might do small groups, you might do private work. It's fantastic, yes. Yeah.
Is the field licensed or registered? I mean,
Great question.
Anybody,
Such a great question. So it's not licensed. It's not regulated outside of the yoga community itself. So about 20 years ago, the major yoga schools and styles of yoga, people who had developed yoga and had been doing it for a long time, got together and said, this 200-hour training is the most basic training that someone should have to call themselves a yoga teacher. And then you should have advanced training that goes up to 500 hours, 750 or 1,000 hours. But there's no one who checks that except for us. as teachers. We know who has gone away for a weekend and calls themselves certified. So as a consumer, it's important for you to ask your teacher, so where did you train? Are you certified? Do you have a teacher? Do they have a teacher? I love being able to trace back my teacher and her teacher and his teacher, what I call a lineage. And I feel like I'm part of this living kind of stream of yoga. And teachers who are really committed to the work will be lifetime students. Yeah. And then there's also what we call yoga therapists. So they're recognizing that yoga is therapy. That's becoming a little bit more, people are paying more attention to that. So they really want you to have your education. They really want you to have experience to say, I'm a yoga therapist. And I am. I had to put together a lot of information and trace back all of my work, and I'm really proud to say I am a registered yoga therapist as well as a yoga instructor. Yeah. So do your research, really. Yeah. And what you do is you shop around. You look for a style of yoga that you like. You look for a teacher that you can connect to. You look for a place that's easy to get to. There's so many places to do yoga these days. It's unbelievable. It's just blowing up like crazy, which is exciting for all of us because that means people are finding benefit taking practice. What else? Is there anything that makes you nervous about yoga that would keep you from going? Would you say, oh, I don't belong there? Anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the different positions and so on. I have vertigo. I can't
Yeah.
put my head down.
Vertigo's hard.
Yeah.
It is. I have a lot of students with vertigo, whether it's full on, full blown, or just little moments of it. So some of the positions might be that you just go part way. You tell your teacher, I have vertigo. They'll be like, ooh, all right, we're gonna really pay attention to you. And that you take the responsibility also of not overriding your sensibility. You know that if you go down and you come up too fast, you get dizzy. Like you'll be on the ground, right? So you know that. So even if you take your own responsibility for yourself, as well as trusting that the teacher is going to help you out. But high blood pressure, unmedicated, that can be, you want to modify your practice so you don't bring your head down. Come back up quickly. If you have a shoulder injury, a knee injury, I mean, people come in with braces and, what do you got on your hand? Yep. So that's a good question. What else? Anything else?
Do you have to wear yoga pants?
Yoga pants! Excellent question! Oh my gosh, I love it! Yes, you need to wear tights.
Spandex.
There's a gazillion $1 million industry called yoga clothes. You might have heard of it. There's fancy yoga clothes. No, you wear athletic pants, you wear t-shirts, sweatshirts, you wear layers, bare feet if you like, and if you didn't get a pedicure, then you can wear your socks. Yeah. Yep, nothing fancy. Don't spend money. I love it. You don't have to make a huge investment. You don't have to buy gear. It's simple. It's very simple, easy to get started.
One last question, Lisa, my part. When I took yoga, it was not just a matter of breathing. There was also a lot of different verbal sounds incorporated into the program as well.
Yeah, some schools of yoga, more sighs, more letting go. Yeah. You take a breath and you let it go. We don't do that in public, ever, right? Because then you'd be so weird. But you might catch yourself recognizing that it feels good now and again to just, let out a sigh. Your friends are going to say, are you all right? You good? And be like, oh yeah, just stretching a little bit, just stretching.